A few months back now, I hopped onto the Eurostar, made my way to Rotterdam, and visited Vertigo Games' office to play Arizona Sunshine 2. Now, I've actually been able to talk about my experience of playing Arizona 2, and I've been able to talk about my feelings and the gameplay that I encountered for probably 3-4 weeks now. The embargo for that lifted a while back. But I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want to make a video about it until I had something to show you. Now, we weren't allowed to record our own gameplay at the event, and I fully understand why. The build I played was very early PC code, and there are a lot of chances for things to go wrong in those kind of builds. Lots of bugs can crop up. My personal experience was really smooth. I didn't actually encounter any bugs or issues, but I understand why the dev team wanted to put that restriction on the experience and not have us record something that could show early gameplay in a bad light. Now, obviously this video isn't going to be a full review of Arizona Sunshine 2. It's not going to be an in-depth dive into the gameplay, because ultimately I've only played 20 to 25 minutes, but I did want to talk about it because I was lucky enough to go and have that hands-on experience, and I really enjoyed what I played, and I'm really excited for the game to release. Now, straight out of the gate, Arizona 2 feels very familiar. Now, I'm someone who played the first game as one of my very first VR experiences. Very early on when I picked up PSVR, that was one of the first games I played through from start to finish, and I've returned to it multiple times since. Arizona kind of has a legacy and a level of recognizability, I guess, in the VR world and the VR medium that not a lot of games have. My friends who don't like VR or don't engage with VR as much as I do always recommend Arizona 1 whenever we do organise play sessions. To them, that's still kind of the pinnacle of co-op VR zombie shooting, and arguably better games have come out since, but Arizona still holds a really special place in a lot of people's hearts, and the original is still a fantastic game to this day. So the first thing I noticed when jumping into Arizona 2 was how familiar it felt. The tone, the visuals, the colour palette, just the way it feels to play, it all felt very familiar to me, but in a new and fresh way. It felt like Arizona 1 through the lens of a studio who have learnt a huge amount through every game they've made since making that original game. It feels a lot like Arizona Sunshine, but with the learnings of After the Fall. It felt a little bit more dynamic, a little bit faster, a lot more punchy, a lot more visceral. So it's really obvious that they've taken what they learned from After the Fall, which was kind of already a spiritual successor to Arizona Sunshine, just set in a frosty landscape rather than a sun-baked desert. They took all that stuff and have applied it to Arizona 2, and it's made it a fresher, faster, punchier, gorier game than the first one. Now look, I'm a massive horror guy. I'm a big gore fiend. I love horror movies, I love horror games. The gorier, the more brutal, the better. And Arizona Sunshine 2 really steps up in that department in particular. The visuals of the zombies, but more specifically, the damage system for when you're shooting them, hacking away at them, blowing them up, is incredibly impressive. And it's one of the coolest things I've seen in a VR game in terms of damage dealt to the enemies you're encountering. It actually reminds me a huge amount of Dead Island 2, and that's a really big compliment, because Dead Island 2 has an incredible damage system, and Arizona Sunshine 2 has kind of taken that, made it its own, and placed it into VR. So when you shoot a zombie, you notice that the skin, the muscle, breaks away at that point of impact, and you get to see the guts, you get to see the bones. Shoot them somewhere else, the same thing will happen there. Limbs break apart in realistic ways. Flesh rips off in really realistic ways. It's very gory. When you first walk into an environment, it's sun-baked, it's sun-drenched, and it's kind of a clean, sandy yellow colour. But once you've walked through it, it's just drenched in blood, because these zombies coat the landscape in blood when you're tearing them apart, blasting them to pieces. It's really visceral, and I love that about it. One other thing I will talk about while I'm talking about the zombies is the system they have for generating the way a zombie looks, be it their face, their clothes, their hair, their stature, their shape, their size. That system is so intricate now, I didn't see any duplicate zombies, which is a rarity. In zombie games, often you'll see twins. You see it a lot in Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. In Saints and Sinners, I often see triplets and quadruplets. Is that a thing? I often see the same zombie standing next to the same zombie. You know, I see that a lot. I didn't see that in Arizona Sunshine 2. They've done a lot of work with randomly generating these zombies to make sure they all look different. They might have the same face, but they've got different clothes on. They might have a different hat on. One might have a helmet. One might have a different pair of jeans or short shorts. It's really cool to see that you're not going to be seeing the same zombie coming at you in masses. They're very different. The systems they've got in place are really impressive, and attacking them is so fun. It feels so punchy. I absolutely love the gore, love the zombies, love the damage system. Second thing that really stood out to me when I played the game was just how cool and how well fleshed out Buddy the dog is as a companion. Now, if you haven't seen the trailers for Arizona Sunshine 2, go watch them. They're very good. But in the trailers, it shows that you have a dog. And this dog it's a fully fleshed out companion. You can pet him on the head. You can play fetch. You can send him off to sick zombies to attack the zombies. And he'll run at them. He'll tear their throat out, pin them to the floor. But it seems like he's got other applications, other things that he can do, which were hinted at during my time playing the game. At one point, I could instruct him to get into a trolley, like a shopping cart, a shopping trolley, and then I could push the trolley along. He didn't do anything when he was in the trolley. He just sat in there. It was very cute, but it was cool that I could instruct him to do that. You can also send him through windows and into buildings that you might not quite be able to reach into to fetch guns, hidden things, hidden objects. He just makes the game feel not so lonely, not so oppressive, and he's really in line with the comedic nature of the game, because Arizona is a very comedic game. It still is now. I'll come on to that in a mo, but he just sits with that vibe so perfectly. It's nice to have a companion. You don't feel as isolated, and it just changes the combat up. You could be shooting a zombie and at the same time instructing Buddy to go off and kill another zombie. So it becomes this kind of nice dance of attacking zombies yourself, and then if you see one sneaking up on you that you might not be able to get to, you can send him off, he'll dispatch them, and you keep going. So it adds to the combat, it adds to the exploration, it doesn't feel as lonely, and it's just nice to have a dog that you can pet on the head and explore this zombie-infested landscape with. Buddy is a great addition to the game. Third thing is exploration. Again, I only played a very small level. It took me about 25 minutes and I was kind of dragging my heels. I didn't want the experience to end, so I was really taking my time. But at one point, I progressed through this kind of pool area. There was a lot of zombies, I was killing them all. And the dev actually tapped me on the shoulder and said that I've missed a gun. And I was like, oh, I don't know how I would have missed a gun. I'm being quite thorough. But I realised there was a building that I assumed I couldn't get into. But if I stood at a specific spot, I could see that there was a gun in there, and I think I needed to get a key to open the doors of the building, and I realised that at that exact point I could send Buddy in through some slats in the window. He could bring me out the key, I could take the key to the door, I could go in, and there was a gun in there that I would have completely and utterly missed had I not taken the time to explore. I didn't take the time to explore, the dev had to kind of direct me. So that's really, really exciting. The levels did feel linear, or the level I played felt linear, but within that level it felt like there were options to explore, to find things, to seek things out. And again, that's just a great thing, because the original game was very linear. I played it not that long ago, and I remember it being a lot more open, but it is quite a straightforward game. You're progressing through the levels. But in the original Arizona, there were things to find. There were little secrets hidden away, and it's great to see that stuff has come over to the sequel and been expanded upon with whole guns that I could completely miss. And I think this was a flamethrower, so I would have been really annoyed if I missed that, because I really enjoyed charring the zombies and barbecuing them up, because again, the damage system for that looks absolutely phenomenal. The fourth thing I really enjoyed about my time with Arizona Sunshine 2 was the humour. The tone is completely intact. It still feels very tongue-in-cheek, very funny, very similar to that original game in terms of the theme and the tone.
That was meant to be a whistle. You know, there was a guy in Florida who married his dog. Just something to think about, okay?
The protagonist often makes kind of quips and remarks that are very funny, and he delivers them in such a wry, gravelly way. I really like the voice acting. I wish I knew the voice actor's name. He does an incredible job. It's really well voice acted. But I like that stuff. It keeps it light. It keeps it fun. It keeps it flowing, and it isn't too serious, too kind of dire, and it's a nice juxtaposition when you see just how gory it is, just how brutal it is, but then there's all these funny things, like you can now grab a grenade and put it in a zombie's mouth, like push it into the zombie's mouth, and it will completely explode, and then he'll say like a crazy one-liner like he's some kind of 80s action hero. I love the tone of the game. If you enjoyed it in the first game, it's here in the second game, it's amped up. I'm sure you'll enjoy it all over again. The final thing that I really loved about Arizona Sunshine 2, and I've kind of already said it across the 4 points I've already made, but it just felt so faithful to the original, whilst also embracing all the advances in tech and the VR space that have occurred since the original released in 2016. And it embraces everything Vertigo have gone through as a studio and all the games they've released since, particularly after the fall. It really does feel like it's learned a huge amount from that game. And, you know, the original Arizona, 2016 it came out, it's an old game now. So by today's standards, it does feel a little bit dated. And this feels so alike the original in terms of its tone, the setting. Stepping back into it felt so familiar. It was crazy. But then you see the tech and you see the damage on the zombies and you see the visuals and you see the lighting and the shadows and the companion system. It's clear that Vertigo wanted to stay true to what made Arizona so good.
Thanks, Freddy.
But also wanted to embrace everything that's happened in the years since its release, because, you know, it is an older game now. And this feels like that. It feels like Arizona, but fresh. Built by today's standards, and I absolutely love that. Now look, there's so many things we don't know about the game. I only played through one level, so I can't speak any more about it than this. Hopefully you've enjoyed this gameplay I've been able to show you. Sadly, it isn't my own gameplay. My own gameplay would have been a lot more chaotic, I'm sure, but it's still great to finally be able to show some gameplay and show you that the game does look really good. Those first CGI trailers put people on a bit of a back foot, I think, and they were thinking there's no way it's going to look that good. And, you know, it doesn't look as good as the CGI trailers, but it looks pretty close. At least the zombies and the damage look really close. The lighting is great, and it's still, you know, this still isn't the final build. I'm sure there's still work taking place. We don't know the release date yet, so who knows what it's going to look like when it finally releases. Now, I wish I could leave you with a big reveal. I wish I could give you a release date for the game. Sadly, I don't know that information. So, just to make me look like an idiot, Vertigo have now released the release date. It's the 7th of December, and here's a ton of new gameplay.
You know, we've got a lot in common, you and me. We've both been alone out here for God knows how long. When we find fucking Patient Zero and we chop him up to carry with us, it won't undo what he did. But damn, it's gonna feel fucking good to get some justice. It must be the guy who bit him. Biker. He's Patient Zero. God, all this damn walking. Well, for Patient Zero, like he hasn't made me suffer enough, you know? Patient Zero, asshole motherfucker, I'm gonna fuck you up. Oh, let's get this party going! Heads up, Fred! Kaboom! Just stay with me, stay with me. It's gonna be okay, bud. It's gonna be okay. Ah, shit! Barbecue time, baby!
Hopefully we're going to get it soon. It's still supposed to be coming out in 2023, and 2023 is rapidly running out of time. But I can leave you with the pre-order bonuses for the game. These are the pre-order bonuses for the standard edition. I particularly like the cute little biker vest that you get for Buddy. He's cute anyway, but dogs in clothes? that's just next level cuteness. So if you pre-order the standard edition, these are the bits you get. But if you pre-order the deluxe edition, you get these things as well. And these things are really bloody cool. You get a zombie skin for Buddy, an undead dog skin. He looks kind of terrifying like that. I don't think I'd want to pet him anymore. He looks a bit like a Cerberus from Resident Evil, which is actually quite cool. Maybe I would want to pet a Cerberus from Resident Evil. Not sure. I love this skin. I think it's fantastic. You also get kind of zombie hands for yourself. So Deluxe Edition is very zombie themed. You can theme yourself and Buddy around being zombies, which is super, super cool. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. It's been great to finally show you some gameplay. I will be covering this game when it comes out. When I get hands-on in my own home, I will blow the doors open on this game and capture as much as I physically can across all platforms, because right now we still don't know what the standalone version looks like, and I am very curious to know what it's going to look like on Quest 2 and Quest 3. But for now, hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, please do leave a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you soon for another one. Take care.